Overwhelmingly positive with LeBron. I think most of the greats of all time, very positive with. But there are times where he kind of plays the victim. I think he spends too much time on his phone sometimes. But here's a prime example. So he has a podcast called Mind the Game with Steve Nash now. It used to be with J.J. Redick. And he said something, and it's just projecting. And so let's go to the clip.
I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the all be all of everything. Like, okay, you weren't a great player if you never won a championship. It's like, you sit here and you tell me, you know, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, you know, our wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys is because this guy won one ring or won two rings or one, like, it's just weird to me.
Okay, nobody says Charles Barkley's not amazing. Nobody says Allen Iverson's not amazing. Nobody says Dan Marino's not amazing. But Barkley isn't MJ, and Marino's not Brady, even though he was more talented. And the reason is the trophies. And LeBron knows that. LeBron has no chance to win a trophy with the current Laker roster, so now they don't matter. He spent his entire career pursuing titles. You think he went to Miami to lay on the beach? He went there for Riley and Spoelstra and a better owner and a better roster. He didn't go west. He stayed in the weak East to keep getting to finals. LeBron pursued finals, and Michael 6 for 6 for years. He's talked about idolizing Michael. What's the stat? What stat do we talk about with Michael? If I said to you, how many total points did Michael score? You don't know. How many division titles did Michael win? You don't know. How do you do in the finals? 6 for 6. That's his number, right? That's his number. And so, and he's been doing this for years, playing this angle. It's projecting, it's straw man argument. And I love LeBron. I really do. I like the people around LeBron. But let's go back to years ago. So LeBron's saying the rings are overrated. No, they're not. And nobody's saying you have to have them to be great. To be the all-time great, you got to have them. So here's LeBron with another guy like Rich Paul on More Than an Athlete podcast. This was after he had won that ring, the only one, in Cleveland.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For so many reasons.
I was super, super ecstatic to win one for Cleveland because of the 52-year drought. Like, I was ecstatic. Like, obviously, I showed that the first wave of emotion was when everyone saw me crying. Like, that was all for 52 years. Everything in sports was going on in Cleveland. And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time.
Well, wait, why would that be? I mean, it was just another game, right? It was just another win. I mean, why would that take you from great to the greatest player of all time? Oh, the ring.
Okay. I wanted to post this on the football channel because I'm going to look at this through the lens of football, because I don't think the basketball channel, anyone really cares about this right now personally. But definitely check out JWL Hoops. It's a party over there, especially a Caitlin Clark party right now. But I feel like this lands more to me looking at it through an NFL lens, because we are in constant, endless conversation, 24/7, 365. I mean, like, it is just endless. We are constantly in constant dialogue in videos, comment section takes. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts. I mean, like, it's just this constant. Joe Burrow, who's better? Who's great? Well, he's got this Super Bowls. He's done this. He's done that. And it's endless. And, LeBron James blasts NBA's ring culture. It's the same thing for quarterbacks in the NFL. And when Colin says, oh, fans aren't saying this, of course they are. Of course they are. And they're saying it for basketball and football. They're saying it for basketball and football. I mean, like, you got people making stuff up saying that Josh Allen chokes in the playoffs, which is one of the most comically, hilariously absurd statements to make, right? And then you got other statements where people say, oh, Patrick Mahomes is the most clutch player in the NFL. And it's like, no, he's technically not. You know, I mean, I already did a clip on this. Okay, like this is most clutch QBs when you gotta have it trailing in the last 5 minutes since 2020. It's Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry it hurts your feelings, but that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. And a stat like that is not really a cooked book because it's very specific. It's in the moments where you gotta have it and you're trailing by 5. What are you doing? This type of stat really can't be cooked. So it's just like, who's been more clutch? And so it kind of drives me crazy that we just like sometimes use our thoughts and feelings to just paint, random pictures just because. And I'm not going to act like that stat right there is everything either. Because there's so much more that goes into a game. Are you the reason? Are you the quarterback? Are you the reason why you're down by 5? Trailing or not, not down by 5, but trailing and in the final 5 minutes, because you could be. But it's just so many times we go back and forth in conversations about any of these quarterbacks and whatnot. It's always like, well, this quarterback has a Super Bowl. Well, this quarterback beat them head to head in the playoffs. This, that, and it's just like, it's not always that. It's not always that. I mean, I've made a lot of Jalen Hurts videos recently because he continues to be kind of trashed and misspoke about. And obviously, he just won the Super Bowl MVP, and the Philadelphia Eagles just won the Super Bowl, etc., etc. And yet, I've never used that as even remotely a key point as to why he's a great player in the NFL or why he's actually better than Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, not once. Not once. And in fact, the only reason why I even remotely emphasize that he won a Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP is because of how great he played. Like, that really is the core of it. Because when you can look at it and be like, this guy has had 2 Super Bowl appearances where he's played out of his mind. Literally record-breaking. Like, that's like literally record-breaking. His Super Bowl win, his performance, is the first time in the history of the NFL, and he did in the Super Bowl. The whole thing that I always read where it's like throwing for over 20 for 200 yards, rushing for over 70. I forget the exact cutoffs. Having a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, a 75% completion percentage, again, whatever the exact thing is. Like, that's what also means. If he just threw for like 180 yards, 200 yards, I don't know, 15 for 25, and it was just like kind of like a basic game. Saquon Barkley rushed for like 130 or something. I would be like, yeah, he won. That's great. And he managed the game and he didn't do anything to harm his team. And then I would have to highlight, other quarterbacks that hurt their teams more and that cost them the Super Bowl. And I'd be like, look, see, Jalen Hurts didn't drop the ball. And sometimes that's all you need your quarterback to do. It would be a different argument. But he legitimately elevated himself in those moments. And to me, that's the bigger point. Which is why even before he won the Super Bowl, I'm like, look what he did in the Super Bowl. That was the point there. And this isn't meant to be a whole Jalen Hurts video, by the way. That's not the point of this video. Because I want to talk about this from all the angles. Joe Burrow technically went further than Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And it's just like, who would you rather have as your quarterback? And the reality is it all depends on what you prioritize. I do not, and this is what I said to Mahomes fans, because they were talking about Super Bowls, they were talking about three-peats, and I kept saying, I don't care about a specific three-peat. I said, if Patrick Mahomes ends up winning, made up number here, 6 Super Bowls, and one of those is a three-peat or not, but it's still 6 Super Bowls, I'm like, I don't care. If you win 3 Super Bowls out of 5 years, or you win 3 Super Bowls in 3 years, it's just like, it doesn't matter to me. And in fact, you can make the argument that it's more impressive to me that it was over a longer period of time, because it shows that you didn't just dominate like a very short stretch where like the teams around you were inferior, or you just had a great hot team. Like, you can make the argument that it's actually a little bit more impressive that you've been able to be great years a couple years after you had already won that Super Bowl. And and Chiefs fans like really struggle with that. And I understood from a Chiefs perspective, more so the Chiefs perspective, the organization, the feeling of dominance. We just won 3 Super Bowls in a row, etc., etc. Like, I get that from a franchise perspective, but in the GOAT argument that people were trying to say, if he three-peats, he's the GOAT, I was like, I disagree with that. And again, and it's just like you have to be careful with all of the arguments that we kind of lace through this, because then it's also like, why does that matter then more than the final number of rings? And when you say, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes is better than not Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, or I don't know, some of these other quarterbacks, like not Tom Brady or even Tom Brady, but not in this specific example, because he has more rings. It's like, well, then under that logic, you better hope Patrick Mahomes wins 8. Like, that's where the whole ring argument always gets tricky. Because Brew and Nick said this before. I think it was last offseason. I forget, but it was definitely before this past season. I forget exactly when it was. It might have been even leading into the Super Bowl of the 2023-2024 season. But they were talking about, like, you know, that Nick did his, like, all-time great quarterbacks. And the question was really kind of like, you know, what do you need to be truly, like, all-time great or considered the GOAT? And they were like, well, I don't think you need to have, like, 7 rings to be there. It's like, I think you got to be, like, 4 or 5. And to me, my logic is kind of like, well, where's the cutoff point? So if you have 3, you can't be considered the GOAT, but if you have 4, you can. And if Tom Brady having 7 is such a massive trump card, well, then why any of the other quarterbacks below him, should they not have to have at least 7 then? And I'm not the ring chaser in that regard. And I do understand what Colin is saying, though, is because it is hard to imagine that you could be that special and not at least get 1 ring. But at the same time, circumstance matters. He brought, Allen Iverson. LeBron brought up Allen Iverson, and that's a great point. Allen Iverson had 1 special player throughout his entire career, and he had him for like a season near the end of his prime, Mutombo. And like, that's it. Like, that's it. He did not play with Dwayne Wade and Bosh. He did not play with AD. He did not play with Klay Thompson and Draymond. I mean, he did not play. And Iverson was a flawed player. Iverson was amazing and great, but he had his own flaws. Difficult to coach, and et cetera, et cetera. But he did not have a squad around him year after year after year. That's not an Iverson problem at that point. It's just not. So, and it's like I keep saying, Patrick Mahomes would not have a Super Bowl if he was drafted to the Carolina Panthers. I fully believe that. And people could say, oh, you think Josh Allen is the best. And I don't think Josh Allen would have a Super Bowl with the Carolina Panthers either. All right? I don't think Tom Brady has all those rings if he gets drafted to the Cleveland Browns. I was trying to think of, like, what team was bad back then? And I'm like, well, probably the Cleveland Browns. I was like, I don't remember exactly what the NFL looked like in 2023 or in 2003 or something. And I'm like, probably the Cleveland Browns are probably a safe bet. They were probably bad. So just, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a conversation worth having and actually exploring the nuances of it. I'm open to you needing like a certain number of rings to be considered special, but like, I don't know. I think the circumstances change. Josh Allen never gets a ring. That's not a Josh Allen failure. That is a failure of the Buffalo Bills. Same thing with the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. These are special players. Joe Burrow wins a Super Bowl if he's on the Rams. Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl if he's on the Rams. Josh Allen wins multiple Super Bowls if he's with the Chiefs. Same thing with Lamar. Same thing with Joe Burrow. Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl if he's with the Philadelphia Eagles. If he's drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Patrick Mahomes, if he gets drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, wins Super Bowls. Same things with Joe Burrow. I mean, like, these are highly run teams. Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl with the 49ers. Jalen Hurts wins a Super Bowl with the 49ers. Matthew Stafford. All these other quarterbacks. The teams matter, man. We can't say the teams don't matter. We can't say that coaching doesn't matter. I mean, it's just one of the most insane things that we just pick and choose when we want it to matter. And I'll have none of it.